The sound of keystrokes echoed cheerfully in my office in Santa Rosa, California, a small town where vineyards blend with the bustling pace of tech startups. I, Claire, 50 years old, sat in front of a glass desk in the modern space of LearnSphere, the educational app development company I built from the days when I had only an old laptop and a big dream. The glass walls reflected LED lights, next to a whiteboard filled with ideas and gleaming tech awards. This was where I turned lines of code into a bridge between teachers and students, with over 100,000 users across the U.S. The office was full of energy, my team chatting and laughing on colorful chairs, and the smell of coffee drifting from the corner served as a reminder that everything was on track. That day was a Thursday afternoon in June 2025, and I was finalizing a presentation for a major investor, my heart brimming with excitement. After hitting a new user milestone, I imagined the moment I would step onto the stage, introducing LearnSphere as an educational revolution. The proud look of my daughter Emma from the audience. The phone on my desk lit up a message from Daniel, my husband of 25 years. I smiled, thinking it was a congratulatory message for LearnSphere's success, or a reminder about Emma's graduation party next week, an event we had meticulously planned. But when I opened the message, I felt the floor collapse beneath me, each word a knife to the heart. Claire, I don't want to continue anymore. I've been with Lisa for a year. She understands me more than you do, and I don't need a wife who only buries herself in useless apps. I'm moving out tonight. Don't make a scene. Lisa, my best friend since college, the one I had shared every secret with, invited over for weekly dinners, treated like a sister. I sat there, hands trembling, eyes fixed on the screen, feeling like the whole world had just turned its back on me. The memories of our laughter-filled evenings, the times I comforted Lisa through heartbreaks, now felt like a cruel joke. Daniel, the man I sacrificed my career for, now called my dream useless. I took a deep breath, set the phone down, and looked out through the glass at my team. They were deep in discussion, unaware that my world had just shattered. Inside, I heard my mother's voice, who used to say, "Claire, you are a flame, no matter who tries to snuff it out," I whispered to myself. They think I'm weak, but they'll see how strong I am, not through tears, but through what I build from this wreckage. I didn't reply to the message. Instead, I opened my laptop, checked the secret plan I had quietly been building for LearnSphere, a project that would change the game, not just for me, but for the entire education sector. I thought of Emma, of my promise to be a mother she could be proud of. The pain was still there, but it wasn't the end. It was the beginning of a journey Daniel and Lisa never saw coming. I stood up, walked into the conference room, and called the team together. "We're accelerating this new project," I said, my voice calm but firm. They looked at me, sensing the shift, but no one asked. I returned to my desk and wrote a note. The day they betrayed me, I chose to rise. The pain still pressed like a stone on my chest, but I knew I couldn't let it pull me down. I opened my email and sent a short message to Mia, my close colleague Mia. "I need to talk. Something big happened, and I need your help, turning it into an opportunity." Have you ever been betrayed so deeply you wanted to scream it to the world? I stood at that crossroads, but what I did next was what made them cry. In the days following Daniel's message, I couldn't stop thinking about the past, as if my mind were rewinding an old film, filled with scenes I once overlooked. My marriage to Daniel wasn't always bitter. We met in college when I was an ambitious tech student, and he was a young man dreaming of becoming a major investor. I sacrificed a lot working part-time to support his startup, passing up internships at big firms so he could focus. When Emma was born, I put my tech dreams on hold to care for her while Daniel built a name for himself in the investment world. Lisa came into our lives as a friend, always present at family gatherings, sharing her dream of becoming a UI designer. I introduced her to industry contacts, even paid for her design course when she was struggling. But the signs of betrayal had long crept in like tiny cracks on a painting. I tried to ignore, hoping it would stay beautiful. Daniel started coming home late, always with the excuse of meetings with partners. Lisa grew distant, using work as a reason to skip weekend coffee. One time, I saw a message from her on Daniel's phone. "Tonight." Okay, Claire's busy with her app. I convinced myself it was a misunderstanding, that my best friend and my husband couldn't do this to me. But deep down, a small voice warned me. 3 years ago, I started taking quiet action, just like I did when building lines of code for LearnSphere. I opened a private account, transferring profits from the company into it without Daniel knowing. I saved suspicious emails and messages, not to confront them, but to remind myself that I needed to protect myself. When Daniel asked me to invest in his startup fund, I declined, saying LearnSphere needed capital. He scoffed, his eyes full of disdain. "You're always obsessed with those pointless apps, Claire. If you were smarter, you'd see they lead nowhere." I smiled, but inside, the pain cut deep like a blade. I remembered the times Lisa came over, complimenting LearnSphere, but always adding a backhanded comment. "You're doing well, but I think this market's too competitive. Are you sure you can handle it?" Back then, I thought she was just worried about me. Now I see it was her way of planting doubt, making me question if I was truly capable. I started taking notes, like a secret journal. Every time Daniel mocked my work, every time Lisa avoided my eyes, I wrote it down. Not for revenge, but to remind myself I deserved better. When Emma went off to college, I focused even more on LearnSphere. Working late, studying AI to improve the app. Those nights alone in the office, I thought of my mother and her words. "You don't need anyone's approval, just your own belief." I built LearnSphere, not just out of passion, but to prove that I was not Daniel's or Lisa's shadow. Daniel's message that day wasn't just a betrayal. It was a declaration of war, as if he and Lisa bet that I would collapse. But they didn't know I had been preparing, had built a solid foundation, not just in my work, but in my soul. I opened my laptop, checked the secret account where I had saved a large sum from LearnSphere. I thought of Emma, of the times she said, "Mom, I'm proud of you for never giving up." I knew I couldn't let her see me fall. I wrote an email to the team, requesting an acceleration of the new project, and felt a fire rise within me. Have you ever realized that the ones you love most can hurt you the deepest? I saw that, but what I uncovered next shocked me even more than Daniel's message. The days after Daniel's message felt like living in a haze, where everything was both familiar and distant. The LearnSphere office was still buzzing with energy, but every time I looked at my screen, I saw his cold words again. Useless app. I didn't cry, didn't call to question him. Instead, I stood up, walked through the office, looked at my team working, and felt a new kind of strength rising within me. But the crisis came faster than I expected. The following Monday, I received an email from a major partner canceling our contract, citing rumors that LearnSphere is financially unstable. I was stunned, like someone had punched me in the chest. I checked the company account. Everything was fine. So why did they think that I called Mia, my colleague and marketing expert, the one who always brought bold ideas? "Mia, I need to see you right away," I said, my voice shaking but firm. "Daniel and Lisa betrayed me, not just personally. I think they're trying to sabotage LearnSphere. A partner just pulled out because of rumors. And I need to know what's going on. I need a plan to turn this pain into power, to show them they were wrong to underestimate me." Mia arrived at the office within an hour. Holding a coffee and wearing a determined look, she sat down, listened as I told her about Daniel's message about Lisa, about the years I sacrificed. When I finished, she was quiet for a moment, then said in a low but sharp voice, "Claire, I've seen you turn small ideas into a $1 million company. I've seen you work until 2 a.m., perfecting that app, seen you inspire your whole team. Daniel and Lisa think they can bring you down, but they don't know who you are. We're going to take LearnSphere to the next level, aim straight at Lisa's market, and I'll handle the marketing campaign, so the whole world knows you didn't just survive, you dominated. Our you and Mia's idea was like a beam of light cutting through the fog. But the crisis wasn't over yet. The next day, another investor pulled out, claiming he had heard from Daniel that LearnSphere was at risk. I sat in my office watching the company balance drop, feeling like everything was falling apart. I thought about Emma, about my promise to give her a secure future. I couldn't let her see me fail. I stood up, walked through the office, and saw Mia in a meeting with the marketing team. She looked at me and smiled. "Claire, I just reached out to a new group of investors in San Francisco. They want to meet with you next week. This is our chance to turn things around, but I need you to believe in yourself the way you did when you first started LearnSphere." I nodded, feeling the fire inside me rise, but deep down I was still struggling. I thought about the nights I sat alone wondering if I was really good enough, wondering if LearnSphere could compete with the tech giants. I remembered one evening a few months ago, when Emma came into the office, watched me work, and said, "Mom, I want to grow up strong like you." Those words became my anchor. I opened my laptop, checked the progress of our new project, an AI-integrated education platform, and felt hope spark within me. I wrote an email to the team. "We're facing a challenge, but this is our chance to prove that LearnSphere is unstoppable." Mia walked in holding a folder. "Claire, here's the marketing plan. We're launching at the biggest tech conference of the year, and I'll make sure all eyes are on you." I smiled, though my heart still felt heavy. "Do you think the people trying to push you down might accidentally give you the motivation to fly higher?" I used to think so. But the secret I uncovered later was far more terrifying than I ever imagined. In the following days, I threw myself into work as a way to forget the pain. The LearnSphere office became my refuge, a place I could control unlike my crumbling personal life. But every email from a partner canceling a deal, every rumor about LearnSphere's financial crisis made me feel like I was fighting an invisible enemy. I knew Daniel and Lisa were behind it, but I needed proof. I called Mia. "I need someone who can dig deep into this. If Daniel and Lisa are sabotaging LearnSphere, I want to know exactly what they've done, and I want them to pay. Not through confrontation, but by watching me succeed." Mia nodded her eyes, sparkling clear. "I know someone. Ethan, a data analyst. He can trace any digital footprint. If they're playing dirty, he'll find it." Ethan came to the office the next day with an old laptop and sharp eyes. "If Daniel and Lisa are up to something, there'll be a trail," he said, voice low but confident. For 4 days, Ethan worked nonstop, and when he brought me the report, I almost fell off my chair. Lisa hadn't just spread rumors. She used my name to send fake emails from LearnSphere, making partners believe the company was in trouble. One email sent to a major investor read, "LearnSphere is cutting projects due to lack of funds." I was stunned to see my forged signature at the bottom. But the bigger shock was Daniel. He had transferred $50,000 from our joint account into Lisa's startup project without ever telling me. Ethan showed me an email between Daniel and Lisa recovered from an old server. Lisa wrote, "Claire is too naive. When LearnSphere collapses, she'll have nothing, and the education market will be ours. I've already started the new project. And with your money, we'll beat her." Daniel replied, "Go ahead. Claire isn't good enough to compete." I read it, and it felt like the blood in my veins froze. My inner voice roared. They think I'm an easy target, but they don't know what I've built. They don't know the nights I stayed up perfecting the app. They don't know how prepared I am. They want to steal my dream, I'll show them an empire they'll never touch. A learned sphere stronger than anything they ever imagined, I called Mia, voice resolute. Mia, we're launching LearnSphere 20 at the tech conference in San Francisco. Not just as an app, but a revolutionary platform aimed straight at Lisa's market with AI and features no other company can match. I want the world to know I didn't fall, and I want Daniel and Lisa to see they were wrong. Can you make sure the marketing campaign leaves them no room to look away? Mia smiled. Claire, I'll make sure they can only see you on the leaderboards. And I'll invite them to the conference so they can witness your moment of glory. I nodded, feeling a surge of new energy. I thought of Emma of the Times. She said I was her inspiration. I opened my laptop, checked the project progress, and saw the team working at breakneck speed. I wrote a note. The day I uncovered the truth, I decided not just to survive, but to dominate. But inside, I was still afraid. I asked myself if I had the strength to compete, if LearnSphere could weather this storm. I remembered an evening sitting with my mother when she said, Claire, your greatest enemy is self-doubt. Those words became my anchor. I stood up, walked through the office, and saw my team looking at me with trust in their eyes. Have you ever uncovered a secret that made you want to change the world? I was standing at that threshold, and the moment of reckoning was closer than I thought. The biggest tech conference of the year took place in a grand hall in San Francisco, with a massive LED screen and hundreds of investors, journalists, and tech leaders. I stood backstage wearing a deep blue suit, holding the USB containing the LearnSphere 20 presentation. My heart pounded not out of fear, but out of excitement. I knew Daniel and Lisa were in the crowd, invited by Mia as VIP guests, completely unaware that I was the keynote speaker. I glanced at the monitor, saw them sitting in the front row, Daniel with his smug smile, Lisa with a confident look in her eyes. They thought they had won, thought LearnSphere was collapsing, but today I was going to show them the truth. I stepped onto the stage, my eyes sweeping across the crowd, and began. Today, I'm not just here to launch LearnSphere 2.0, but to tell a story about rising after betrayal, after being belittled, after being told my dream was worthless, that I wasn't good enough to compete in this brutal tech world. I projected Lisa's forged email on the screen with my fake signature, and Daniel's unauthorized transaction transferring $50,000 from our joint account. The crowd buzzed. Journalists began taking notes. I continued, my voice sharp. They thought I would fall, that LearnSphere would disappear so they could dominate the education market. But here's the truth. LearnSphere 20 is a pioneering educational platform integrated with artificial intelligence, attracting 500,000 users during the trial phase. And today, I'm announcing a $10 million contract with a national education corporation. Meanwhile, the project of the traders is collapsing from lack of funding and vision. The crowd erupted in applause, thunderous. I looked down and saw Lisa lowering her head, fists clenched, while Daniel froze his eyes. Panicked, I didn't need an apology from them. Their failure was the clearest declaration I ended. LearnSphere is not just an app. It's proof that you can rise even when the world turns its back on you. I'm here to tell you, never let anyone define your worth. The crowd rose, applauding non-stop. I stepped off the stage, feeling as if I had just let go of a heavy burden. Mia ran up, hugged me. Claire, you did it. They have nothing left to say. But that moment wasn't just a victory. I thought about the days I doubted myself, the nights I wondered if I was strong enough. I remembered the first time I pitched the LearnSphere idea, when an investor scoffed. Education's no place for a 40-year-old woman. I proved him wrong, and now I proved Daniel and Lisa wrong. I walked through the hall, saw journalists gathering wanting interviews. I smiled, but inside I was thinking of Emma. I called her right after the conference. Emma, I just did the biggest thing in my life. Are you proud of me? She laughed. Mom, I've always been proud. That night, I returned to the office, sat alone looking at my mom's photo on the desk. I wrote a note. The day I faced my enemies, I found myself. But this victory isn't the end. I know there are more challenges ahead, more people who will doubt me. I opened my laptop, checked emails from the team, saw dozens of messages from new clients wanting to partner with LearnSphere. I thought of Mom, of what she used to say. You don't need to win to be loved, but you need to win to love yourself. Do you think the sweetest victory is when your enemies witness your success? I did that, but my journey didn't end on that stage. After the conference, I drove back to Santa Rosa, stopping at a small cafe where I used to sit and dream about LearnSphere. I picked a corner by the window, watched people passing by, and allowed myself to feel the deep sadness, not because of Daniel or Lisa, but because of the years I believed in them, thinking love and friendship were unchanging. I thought about the evenings I cooked for Lisa, the times I comforted Daniel when he failed. Now it's all just memories, like lines of faulty code I had to delete for the app to run smoother. I held the coffee cup, the warmth spreading through my hands, and thought of Mom, who once said, "Claire, you're a flame no matter who tries to put you out." Her words were a foundation, but I still felt a void I had won on stage. But inside, I still wondered if I was truly enough. That night, I wrote a letter to Emma, promising to always be a strong mother, not just for her, but for myself. That act felt like a turning point, helping me begin to heal. I thought of the times I stood in front of the mirror, questioning whether I deserved LearnSphere's success. I remembered an evening when Emma came to the office, saw me working, and said, "Mom, I want to grow up strong like you." Those words were like a breeze clearing the clouds. The next day, my office overflowed with emails from new clients from schools wanting to integrate LearnSphere 2.0, from journalists requesting interviews. But I still stood alone looking at Mom's photo on the desk, wondering if I made her proud. I opened her old notebook, saw the words, "Your strength is in your perseverance, not in recognition." I wiped my tears, feeling a sense of relief. I called Mia. I want to organize a team meeting, not to celebrate, but to thank them for standing by me through the storm. Mia laughed. "Claire, the team loves you, and I think they'll be happy to see you smile again." The meeting was warm with pastries and coffee. I stood before the team and said, "You're not just colleagues, you're family." When I thought I would fall, you helped me stand. They applauded, and for the first time in weeks, I didn't feel alone. I thought of the days I doubted myself, the nights I wondered if LearnSphere was worth the sacrifice. But now, looking at the team, I knew I had made the right choice. I wrote a note. The day I healed, I found a new family. I started spending time for myself, walking in the park, listening to music and journaling. Each page was a step forward, a way to understand that my worth didn't lie in Daniel or Lisa, but in myself. I thought of Mom, of how she always smiled through tough times. I want to live like her, not for victory, but for joy. I called Emma, told her about the conference, and she said, "Mom, I knew you'd do it because you're the strongest person I know." Her words felt like a gift, reminding me that I'm not just a businesswoman, but a mother, a woman who's walked through darkness. Have you ever found light in your deepest pain? I did, and it led me to a place I never expected. The trial took place 3 months after the conference at a local court in Santa Rosa, where I sued Daniel and Lisa for financial fraud and defamation. I walked into the courtroom wearing a black suit, eyes filled with pride, though deep down there was still a trace of anxiety. Daniel and Lisa sat on the other side, Lisa avoiding eye contact, Daniel with a fake confidence. I thought about the days I used to trust them, used to believe they were family. Now they were strangers, and I was here to reclaim justice. My lawyer Rachel stood up and presented the evidence with the precision of an artist. Lisa's forged emails, Daniel's unauthorized transactions, and the rumors that cost LearnSphere its contracts, Rachel said. Your Honor, my client, Ms. Claire Thompson, has been doubly betrayed, not only losing $50,000 from a joint account, but also having her career built from scratch, sabotaged. This isn't a personal matter. It is a case of deliberate financial fraud and defamation aimed at destroying a multi-million-dollar company and the dreams of thousands of teachers and students. The courtroom fell silent. Eyes fixed on Rachel, Daniel's lawyer, stood up and tried to counter. Your Honor, this is merely a personal misunderstanding with no intention to harm Mr. Thompson. Only wanted to support a startup project, and Ms. Lisa did not realize her email would cause such serious consequences. Rachel's smiled eyes sharp. A misunderstanding when transferring $50,000 illegally and spreading rumors that caused LearnSphere to lose dozens of contracts. We have clear evidence from the forged emails to messages between Mr. Thompson and Ms. Lisa, where they planned to crush LearnSphere and take over the market. This isn't a misunderstanding, it is a calculated conspiracy. The judge looked at Daniel. Mr. Thompson, do you deny these transactions, these emails, and the plan to sabotage your wife's company? Daniel stammered, voice shaking. I just wanted to help Lisa start her business. I didn't think it would go this far. I didn't want Claire to get hurt. The judge cut him off, voice stern. By stealing your wife's money and destroying her career, the court orders you and Miss Lisa to pay $100,000 in damages and issue a public apology to Ms. Thompson. The sound of the gavel echoed, and I felt like a weight had been lifted. I left the courtroom, eyes proud, never looking back at Daniel or Lisa. Rachel walked beside me and said, Claire, you did it. This isn't just a legal victory. It's a personal one. I nodded, but inside I thought of Emma. I called her right after the trial. Emma, I just won a big battle. Not just for the money, but so you could see that justice still exists. She laughed. Mom, I always knew you would win. I returned to the office and saw the team waiting with a cake that read, Congratulations, Claire, the undefeated queen. I smiled for the first time in months, feeling truly free. I thought of my mother, of her words. Justice is not revenge. It's reclaiming what is rightfully yours. I opened my laptop and saw an email from a major school wanting to sign a long-term contract with LearnSphere. I wrote a note. The day I reclaimed justice, I reclaimed myself. But this victory isn't mine alone. I think of the team of Mia, of the nights they stayed late to support me. I think of the clients who believed in LearnSphere, even as rumors spread. I stood in front of the mirror, looked into my eyes, and saw a woman who no longer doubted herself. Do you believe justice can be a cure? I've felt it, but my story continues. And what I do next is what will truly make Daniel and Lisa cry. In the weeks after the trial, Santa Rosa seemed to shrink. As news of my victory spread, Lisa and Daniel tried to spread rumors that I had manipulated the conference to embarrass them. But Mia's article on TechCrunch, titled Claire and LearnSphere, From Betrayal to the Top, silenced all the lies. The article told my story from the shock of betrayal to the $10 million contract, and the truth behind Daniel and Lisa's actions. Clients poured in from small schools to international education corporations. I received an invitation to speak at TEDx, and LearnSphere became a name impossible to ignore in the edtech industry. Meanwhile, Daniel and Lisa faced the consequences. Their startup, funded by the money they stole from me, went bankrupt when investors pulled out. Lisa lost her credibility in the design world, with partners refusing to work with her after learning she forged emails. Daniel, once a respected investor, was now only known as the unfaithful husband. I heard they moved to a small apartment in the suburbs, living in hardship. But I didn't feel satisfied. I only felt sad because the people I once loved had destroyed themselves. I focused on LearnSphere, expanding the company with 3 new offices in San Francisco, Seattle, and Austin. I hired 20 new staff members, from engineers to education experts, and felt a deep pride seeing the team grow. One afternoon, a client named Sarah came to the office to sign a contract for her school. She said, "Claire, I read your story, and it gave me the courage to start my own business after my husband left me. You're my inspiration." I smiled, feeling the ripple effect. I thought about the days I doubted myself, the nights I asked if I was enough. Now I was not just an entrepreneur, but a symbol, not just for women, but for anyone who's ever been underestimated. I started spending time with Emma, taking her out to dinner, talking about her dreams. One day she said, "Mom, I learned from you that no one can take away your worth unless you let them." Her words felt like a gift, reminding me that I wasn't just fighting for myself, but for my daughter, for future generations. I wrote a note. The day I saw my impact, I knew I had won. I thought of my mother, how she always found joy in the small things. I started walking in the park every morning, listening to birdsong, feeling peace. I called Mia to thank her. "Mia, without you, I don't know if I could have made it this far. You're not just a colleague. You changed my life." Mia laughed. "Claire, you changed your life. I was just your cheerleader." I opened my laptop and saw an email from TEDx confirming my talk. I started preparing not just to tell my story, but to inspire thousands. I thought about the days I stood alone in the office, wondering if I was worth fighting for. Now I knew the answer. I looked at the photo of my mother on my desk and felt her smiling. Have you ever thought a wound could become a torch? I have, and I want more people to feel it too. Victory in court and at the conference was not the end, but the beginning of a greater mission. I realized that my story was not just mine, but that of millions of women who had been betrayed, who had once been doubted. I founded Empowered, a nonprofit organization that supports women in learning technology and financial management. The LearnSphere office became the heart of the organization, with small classrooms where women aged 20 to 60 gathered to learn how to code design interfaces or make financial plans. The atmosphere was always lively with laughter, keyboard tapping, and the scent of coffee in the air. One evening, I held our first workshop, standing in front of 50 women with eager eyes. I shared. I used to think my worth lay in my husband's love, in the recognition of my best friend. But I learned that it lies in what I create and how I rise after every fall. You can do that too. One member, Anna, stood up, her voice trembling. "Claire, I escaped a toxic marriage after reading your story. You helped me believe that I deserve better, that I can learn technology even at 45. The crowd applauded, and I felt tears well up, not from sadness, but from joy. I hosted a charity event that raised $200,000 for local schools. With hundreds attending, Santa Rosa was filled with my story from local newspapers to social media. But it wasn't always smooth. Once a member criticized me for being too busy to lead, Empowered, saying I wasn't committed enough. I listened and invited a tech expert to assist, making the organization stronger. Anna came, hugged me. "Claire, you didn't just teach us tech, you taught us how to face criticism." I thought of my mother, of how she always found ways to help others. I began spending weekends teaching coding for free to children in underprivileged areas. One boy, Tommy, said, "Miss Claire, I want to build an app like you when I grow up." Those words felt like a gift, reminding me that I wasn't just building LearnSphere, I was building the future. I called Mia. "Mia, I want Empowered to go nationwide. Do you think we can do it?" Mia laughed. "Claire, with you, nothing is impossible." I wrote a note. The day I spread light, I saw the world shine brighter. I thought about the days I stood alone, wondering if I was worth fighting for. Now, I see myself in Anna's eyes, in Tommy's, and the hundreds of women learning to change their lives. I opened my laptop and saw an email from an international organization wanting to collaborate with Empowered. I smiled, knowing this was only the beginning. Do you believe a community can heal the deepest scars? I've seen it, and it changed me forever. 2 years after Daniel's cruel message, I stood on the TEDx stage in Los Angeles in front of thousands of people with hopeful eyes. I wore a red dress, the color of the fire. My mother once said I carried within me, I shared. My husband and best friend betrayed me, called my dream useless, thought I would crumble under the pain. But I turned that pain into LearnSphere, a multi-million-dollar education empire, not to prove anything to them, but to live true to my values, to show my daughter that no one can take the fire within you. During the Q&A, a young audience member asked, "How do I rise after betrayal when my family says I'm not good enough?" I replied, "Start with a small step, a dream. You don't give up on a skill, you learn to prove that you are enough. Your worth is a flame no one can extinguish, and every small step will lead you to places you never imagined." The crowd applauded, but the moment I'll never forget was when Anna from Empowered ran up to hug me. "Claire, because of you, I started my own company. You're my light." LearnSphere now has 5 branches, a team of 50 people, and was honored by Forbes as Education Innovation Company of the Year. Daniel and Lisa live in hardship. Their company gone, but I don't feel triumphant. I just feel peace, because I have found myself. I keep Daniel's message in a small frame beside the words, "Betrayal is the fuel for the greatest comeback." At LearnSphere's 15th anniversary celebration, I stood before clients, the team, and the community, and said I used to think love defined me, but I learned that I defined myself, and each of us has the right to paint our own life's picture. I thought of my mother, how she lived with joy even when life wasn't easy. I thought of Emma, of the times she said I was her inspiration. I thought of Anna, of Tommy, of the hundreds of women changing their lives because of empowered life. Like a line of code, needs perseverance, strategy, and belief. There are days you feel invisible, but remember, you are the one writing the future. Live positively, love yourself, and turn every pain into power. What will you do to turn your pain into an eternal flame? I did it, and I know you can too.